Everyone feels, well coiffed? Okay. Sophie Sue, we're ready for you. Okay. Good evening. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for coming. This is our workshop time as a preliminary budget review of the road commissioners' budgets. Got the Warrant and Finance Committee, Select Board, and our 2 road commissioners, and our secretary. Thank you, Lorraine. So it's just going to be pretty informal, a chance for the Warrant and Finance Committee to ask questions of the road commissioners about their budgets. Our board has already seen the budgets, and we have already conveyed to the road commissioners that we wish to put forward the budgets that they have requested as elected officials onto the warrant, and that really it's a question of what the Warrant and Finance Committee wishes to do as a recommendation. So we're here to kind of work on that tonight, and floor is pretty much going to be yours, and we're here to answer questions if they need to be answered from us as well, and certainly ask questions if they come up. Sound good to everybody?
Yep.
Okay. So do you want to have one of the road commissioners present their budget or at a time, or how would you like to have the information given to you?
What works best typically?
Usually we have District 1 go first and then District 2 follows. If you want to do it that way. They have given their budgets together. They do have a number of joint accounts, and I think that it would probably be wise to maybe look at District 1's proposal to some extent, then to District 2, but then really look at where their proposals overlap and look at them together as a kind of a joint effort.
Okay, well, I think we both agree that on our stockpile, we're going to keep that the same as it is, and our equipment account, our cutting edges and all that the same. It's been working. We've been gaining a little bit for the last couple of years because of FEMA money, and last year's we didn't have a lot of snow and ice removal last year, so we was actually to regain our stockpile, which helped us out this year, which it's going fast this year because we actually have a real snow year. And that's my opinion on 2 joint accounts. As far as my snow removal account, it's up in the air. I don't know what's best for the town to add to it, to perceive a bad year, or keep it the same, and then for the road commissioners, when they get close, to have a special meeting to ask for more money. I don't know exactly what's the best for the town in that position.
Okay, well, for this year so far, out of the $76,530 that was budgeted for District 1 for plowing and sanding, you've spent 70% of that. That doesn't include, of course, the last week of storms, but we expect that right now you have remaining in your budget about $16,000. We shouldn't maybe expect to run out of that this year, and it probably has been a heavy winter.
Well, I kind of beg to differ with you, because all it takes 2 good, one good week and another small week, and that money will be gone.
Well, we were just discussing it, and on average, on a weekday where we get heavy snowfall, where our budgets are, our payroll's looking between $12,000 and $13,000 on a really severe week, So we could wipe out our budget real fast on a week like that.
And, on a severe week, I know, and it's been, for myself, it's been 55 hours a week and 30 hours in my shop, so you can add that up. That's 85 hours a week, of course, the town's only paying for 55, but I have to go through my trucks, I have to change cutting edges, I have to, so it's not just 55 hours a week on that, it's a lot more, but I don't know what the best is for the town, far as, do we ask for more money and not spend it, or do we ask for more money and, keep it the same, and then ask for more money when it comes needed?
What happened last year? I know we had a mild winter. Was that money that was left over put forward towards this year's snow budget?
No, it was put back in the general fund.
All right, so if there was extra money, what you're saying then is it probably should go back into the snow plowing account as opposed to going into any other account?
I don't believe so on that one. I believe maybe the stockpile money should.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I think you'd have to change one of the warrants, because the warrant article carries certain funds to be carried forward, and that's not listed as one of those that we carry forward, so you'd have to make an arrangement by warrant to carry that money forward if you wanted to do that.
Well, I think just in general, the auditor feels it's cleaner to dump what's left over into the surplus for turnover, rather than to carry bits and pieces along. It's a cleaner process to dump it into the surplus.
Okay, so it's just a guesstimate every year, you don't know how bad it's gonna be or how good it's gonna be, so you
Right.
just gotta come up with a figure and then we gotta go from there.
And then Dave and I do have the right to take our surplus money of sand and salt and buy actually sand and salt before the end of the fiscal year.
And we did that this
Yeah, you
year to
did.
help us out huge.
Actually, we've done it the last 2 years. I did it the first previous year by our FEMA money that we actually got back, and I dumped it right back into our sand and salt shed. But the snow plowing it's Mother Nature.
Yeah.
It's a tough one. No one can predict it.
Well, and we did go to, I think it was, 2 or 3 years ago, we did hold a special town meeting in about January to, give some more money towards plowing, and the people were very supportive of that. I mean, nobody,
Right. I feel strongly of that the people do want their roads plowed and safe, just like they have been.
So you think it's better to wait until we need to go to the meeting rather than
I
putting
would
more
rather,
forward?
and I
Yeah,
think that
agree.
it has a better chance of, at town meeting, if you say to people, this is what we think we're gonna need, but please do know that going forward, we might need to ask for more. I think people are respectful of saying, okay, well, we're only asking for what we think we're gonna need, but we're willing to go back and ask you for more if we need it.
I mean, this number for the snow plowing, Lorraine, do you have any idea how long we've held this number for the snow plowing?
How long that amount has been in the budget?
3 years,
3 years, we use a 70.
70-something.
It's lower than it was.
It's lower than it actually was, I believe, Andy,
We used
yes.
to budget 160.
Well, no,
that's
no,
what
it's,
paving.
no, it's split in half, so it's not lower than it was. I mean, I think it did increase a little bit, I'm sorry on that. It was just the opposite of what I said, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But I did think it did increase, but not by much,
Yeah.
just because of,
It's because we'd had a bad winter.
that was that big, bad winter, we got 165 inches record snowfall that year, and
It's impressive.
165
And
inches,
if we're
yes.
caught in a bad winter, the people understand why you're going back to them for more money. It's not like go and say, okay, we'd like to have a little bit more. They know, because they've been living through it.
But if we do go back for more, we're talking about a special town meeting, I
Right.
assume.
Yeah.
Which is not, it costs about $500 to run a special town meeting. It's not cost prohibitive. And if we don't, I like the idea of needing to go back because it goes in line with our trying to keep a stable tax rate. If we can keep as many numbers stable as we can in good faith, providing that we're not being naive, then it helps to kind of, on our end, regulate when it comes time for commitment.
So come up with some level that maybe every fourth year you'd have to go back for more, as opposed to every other year or every year.
Usually, like when you contract, people who put contracts up for the snow plow, and rule of thumb is you figure it averages out in 3 years, is what usually you figure on. Of course, you'll have the odd years, where you'll have 2 bad ones and 1 good one, or vice versa. So, I think Larissa's correct. By leaving it the way it is right now, and not carrying over the money, because I think if you do that, you're gonna start changing the number every year, and people aren't gonna be able to track it as well either. Everybody knows this is a number that's just thrown there to make the tax rate, and, last year we did have some left over, but, in general, to do what we're doing for the money we're doing, I think it's,
In general, it's a low number.
We get a good service for our money, absolutely.
I'm surprised you're still under after this winter, right now.
I mean, basically, we've only had a good month and a half of hammering. I
We
mean,
didn't get anything in December.
3 years ago during
It's
that,
come down consistent ever
but
since.
3 years, and that's, I mean, I remember actually being on the payroll 25 days out of December. Then we luckily had a January thaw, lost it all, and then it all came back again,
Into
I mean,
March.
Into March.
Yeah,
you know
end
what
of
I mean?
March,
So
then.
that's when we had that 165 inches, but we were so lucky that we actually lost that 25 inches of snow in December, but it's still, the payrolls were still there, and the still money was spent, but, I mean, Mother Nature plays.
I mean, this year's, the storms that we've had this year, you know, only had, I think, 2 really big snow events. A lot of them have been, you know, 6, 7 inches here and there, ice. That last one, it was a real doozy. I mean, you only get a couple, 3 inches out of the storm, but, you know, it took us just as much time to clear up that ice as it did clearing up 2 feet of snow.
And twice as much material.
Yeah, and the material costs really, we ate up a lot of material costs in just that one storm. So, you know, like last year, with our budgets, I think Scott and I, we did a lot of running around last year. We didn't get a lot of snow, but there was a lot of, you know, chasing snow drifts because we had a lot of wind and this and that. So, you know, every year is different, and just how the storms come in and, you know, what temperatures and all that.
And this year, it's actually been an exceptionally, you don't usually see it snow when it's cold. That's why I've been getting this light, fluffy stuff, you know. Usually, when it snows, it warms up to 28, you know, 25 degrees, but I've been seeing it snow at 15 degrees and 12 degrees this year, which, you know, the material really doesn't work that well. So but you still have to keep it scraped, and you're putting out material, and, you know, it's been an odd year for, I mean, that aspect.
Our roads look great though, guys. Good job.
Thank you.
Scott, what is the bottom line? I see you have a 101, 520, and then you have the amount of snow plowing, so what would be a bottom line be?
I don't really actually have a complete bottom line, but I mean, I'll have that for the next one, but I'm keeping, I mean, it would be the 76,000
76 for snowplow?
for District 1.
So you'd be talking,
He's looking at $161,000 staying the same as last year, and then he's suggesting as an additional warrant article, the 101-231.
Right, and these projects that I have written down, that, I mean, if you do read it, it does say no paving. These are the projects that are all, and I do have culverts already purchased for these projects. I do have my crushed gravel already purchased for this material, for these projects. There's, you know, at least half of the material down at the town, at the school pit for my projects, 3-inch minus, 1.5-inch gravel that I will be using on these projects, which are written out, showing in all my proposals. But I'm not expecting to do, I mean, if I do get this money, I'm not expecting to do all of these projects, because I will be using paving money. But I didn't really want to go and get a paving money for every number one of these, because I don't know what I'm really gonna get into. You know, I mean, some roads I might wanna pave and surface, some I might, you know, wanna grind up, some I might wanna just put a 2-inch base over. So, but, I mean, I just went through these projects, and it took a lot of time, a lot of figuring, and it added up to this number, and that's close to, you know, close to what I was getting before 2 years ago, just for paving money. So, and then the paving money was road reconstruction and paving and capital gains improvement. And when you do projects like this, it's very easy to show the state where you spent your capital gains money. Like this year, I'm gonna be all over the paperwork. Like I did some, you know, I did some of this, I did some here, I did some there, just to come up with my yurt money. Versus, it was easy before. I did the guardrails, and I mean, I had a special project down here on Sand Page, took care of it. Or guardrails, took care of it, you know, mostly, you know, or that Acton Ridge project with the guardrails and the ditching and the Goose Pond project. So, I mean, these are things that I'm foreseeing that I need to be done. I mean, all these projects might take me 2 years, or if I have a good year, I might get 3 or 4 of them done. It depends on what I feel is actually necessary at the end of the spring. You know, when we see what's coming for washouts this spring and stuff, you know, because there you go, Mother Nature's gonna dictate what I'm actually gonna do for this end of this fiscal year and what I gotta do for next fiscal year.
and I guess what I'm asking is, your special projects are 101,
No, these are-
roughly 300, right?
Well, I'd like to reframe on that.
Call them projects. Okay.
Road reconstruction and paving.
And then there's 161 for plowing and sanding and
Yes.
whatever. So you're talking 200 and,
262, 231.
And that's, I believe that's well under the number I was receiving 3 years ago. I think it was over, close to 300, 3 years ago. Now I was getting like a 105.
262, 231.
231, okay. Very good.
So in this current year, we're basically at a very minimalist level because of budget crunches and whatnot in the last couple of years. And we're going back up to recognizing that maintenance is important and we don't want the roads to fall apart, and that's basically a reflection of the.
Yes,
of
I
the
mean,
increase.
I've tried to, you know, like I said, I tried to go with the economy, but, you know, safety is first.
There's always been a question about this in Nason Road, and there was a question at one time whether we're gonna keep it as a road or not keep it as a road. And, what's the final situation?
Well, I mean, I've asked previous selectmen and whatnot to turn it back to a seasonal road. I've had it verbal. I've talked to Lorraine about it a couple times. And we do have houses going up on that road. I mean, I have to plow so far in on, you know, in the beginning, I had to plow so far in on one end, so far in on the other end, and it's cost effective just to plow through it. It's a sprayed road. David's grandfather, he's the one that actually put that road in. It's got a very good gravel base of what I've seen, except for the end down towards Goose Pond Road. That's the end I'm proposing to reconstruct, but the rest of the road, besides I want to add on to one culvert and replace one culvert to it. The road is a decent road, but it just doesn't have no pavement to keep up with it. And I've been averaging roughly $2,000 to $3,000 a year just maintaining with coal patch and sweeping and erosion control on that one
So
road.
you're thinking if we make a nice road there, someone will go down and build a house on it, is that the idea?
Now, they're already building houses
They're
on
already,
that.
what happened, John, is we had a house at one end,
I know that.
and then we had a house at the other end,
Yep.
and that's all we had. So they plowed those two ends. But then Richard Nason started selling lots, and we've got, I don't know, 4 or 5
While there's,
new
okay.
houses down
All
there.
right.
at least two and plus many
All right,
lots.
so you gotta fix the road.
And it is a very traveled road, you know. Some people say it's not, but it's a very traveled road.
It is.
And it'll
because
probably
a
be
lot
even
of
more
fish
travel
are
if I
driving
fix it
there.
even better, because no one likes to come up 109 if they're headed to Boonies, or if they're going to transfer station,
Right.
or anything like that.
They try to stay away from the San Pedro, is that the idea?
Well, you gotta take San Pedro, that'll be on next year's budget.
Do you think you can get all this work done this year, Scott?
Like I said, I mean, I'll pick my major ones out and then pave and reconstruct what I think I can do, but I know I can do at least half of these projects and pave and reconstruct. It's whether I decide to pave it or grind it. You know, it's kind of in my discretion, how many culverts I actually have to replace, how much ditching I actually have to do. I mean, I have rough estimates, they're not just rough, there's a lot of homework behind it. I mean,
How do you decide the priority? Is it kind of like triage? You find the worst problems and work your way down, or?
Yep, exactly. You know, like Acton Ridge project is up that hill. I mean, just basically every driveway culvert's plugged and the ditch lines are plugged. You know, and it's how much I just, you know, when I do that cross culvert on the road, it's how much I destroy of the road when I'm doing all this ditching and, you know, what's actually tore up, and do I just put a 2-inch base over it, or do I grind the whole road? You know, once I do the project and I do a few others, and then I would determine that afterwards, you know, it's.
But for this Acton Ridge Road, I don't know where you're gonna do that, but are you gonna be
Basically,
running
from your
there?
house to Man Road.
Okay, I just wondered if you're gonna have trouble with that bridge project.
Well, that's one of the culverts I will investigate, add on, or replace.
That bridge
I'm talking
project's
the
this
bridge
year, though.
project.
No, nothing on the bridge project, that's state, that's all
I
state.
know that.
And it's this year, John. They're doing that in April.
I know that.
I'm glad, because I almost replaced replaced the guardrails down there, and I'm glad
They're gonna do that, I think.
they're gonna take care of that.
John, I've got the folder on what they plan to do also.
Well, I was
anytime
at
you
the
wanna
public
look at
hearing.
it.
I was at the public hearing. I know what they're gonna do.
And the paving is over and above, right? Is that what it says on the bottom?
Well, I'm gonna ask for this much money, and I'm gonna spend it on these projects, whether I only have 3 of them done, or 4 of them done, and pave the areas, if I just gotta do just paving on cross culverts,
Yep.
or if I decide to shim one road, or if I decide to grind, like especially on Garvin Road, if you wanna go to Garvin Road, I mean, there's small sections.
It's a tough neighborhood up there, that Garvin Road.
Well, I mean, I've done a lot of work, I've done a lot of work up there, but I'm learning too. You know, it's good to learn. I mean, I can read it pretty much off my head. I mean, the first phase is basically ripping out 300 feet of pavement, putting bigger, large rock, which I'll have to go down the school town pit, pick out bigger rock to help the erosion control, which meets that, with the Watershed Alliance control, that's what they basically requested, and adding a foot of gravel over the top. You know, that consistent foot of mat of material does help out, and repaving that section and surfacing. So any pavement I really will rip up will get replaced. And then we'll see how much money I have left over, and then I can maybe throw a shim over some of these areas. I mean, I'm not planning on one just road, putting a mile of pavement down one road. I'm going for many projects. And of course, my road maintenance money, that'll take care of extra tree cutting, my coal patching, bush cutting, sign control,
Shoulder milling.
shoulder edging, washouts. I mean, it's
Beavers?
beavers.
Poor beavers alone, you people are mean. Okay, Scott, I want to just kind of also just underline a point again. That's why he's being very careful to call this a road reconstruction and paving account, instead of going with the idea of special projects, which limits the road commissioners. So let's say that Scott were to say, all right, I'm going to propose 2 special projects. I'm going to propose the Acton Ridge Road project and the H Road project, and it's going to include paving. Let's say he finishes those projects, and like David, he comes in $15,000 under budget. He can't use that $15,000 to go and do some more paving on another road, because it's been set as a specific project. By giving the road commissioners a little bit more leeway, we have said we're willing to spend this number of dollars, and we want to get the most repaired roads we can for that money. And this, by bringing back road reconstruction and paving accounts, not special projects, that gives them that flexibility. So he's giving you just suggestions of what he thinks he's going to do with that money, but without tying his hands.
And using our Europe money.
Right.
And you can actually,
Yeah, that's the biggest thing at the beginning of this year, because the Europe money had been used on small projects all over the place, and we had to track it all down and find out where it was and then report to the state. So we, this year, have banked that money. They haven't gotten that money to spend. So that Europe money, which is $68,000,
Yep.
will go towards this money that both of them are asking for, road reconstruction. So we got the $68,000 that we saved from the state, and there'll be an additional $10,000 to $12,000 that David saved from working on the San Page Road that he couldn't spend last year. So we're already up to about $80,000 towards the $200,000 that the 2 of them are asking to put towards the town to get their paving accounts back. And then we're giving them the right to make the decision on which roads should be repaired and how to use that money again. And that was taken away from them before.
Yeah. So if we have $80,000, which is what we expect by adding to the warrant article to carry forward that San Page Road money into a paving and reconstruction account, okay? With the Europe money of the $68,000, we're at $80,000 now. So both of these gentlemen are asking for about $100,000 in paving and reconstruction. We give them each 40. We've got $60,000 for each district that we're actually appropriating. We get more bang for our buck.
And we'll get an additional $68,000 in Europe funds in the next year.
That we can bank
That
and
we
do
can
this.
bank and do the same thing
Yeah.
the following
Good
year.
business.
And with
Sounds
that,
great.
with the Europe funds, what happens is, we've got guidelines of what those Europe funds are supposed to be used for, surfacing, you know, heavy ditching, this and that, so this would fall into, you know, these projects who we're asking about, what we're showing. That'll fall into that, so when we, next year, go and do up our New York Fund, you know, checklist or whatever, you know, you'll know where the money's being spent. I mean, this year, we're all set on the Europe Fund because of San Page Road. That was 70, I can't remember. It was $11,000 some dollars on the budget, so it was 70 some thousand dollars. It was $79,000. And we have bill proof that we spent 68,000 somewhere. So we're able to do that this year on that project there, but at least with these projects here, they're big enough jobs where they actually are credited for that to the state.
So,
Yeah, Dave, you spent 79,312 on San Page Road, and we budgeted, what, 90,000? right?
$90,567.
90,567, so there's $11,254 left. But the 79,000 is way over the 68,000 that we have to report to the state, so the San
Yeah,
Page
so we're-
covers for the whole year.
Definitely.
So Scott doesn't have to try to pick and choose out of those things.
Well, that's
We're covered.
basically what I did the year prior.
Yeah. With the San Page Road, yes.
I mean, all the Europe money came right out of the San Page Road on this end.
Yeah.
It was the same thing. And as far as the fuel allowance, I mean, I'm kind of going back to the old way, the way it was in the books. You know, setting the pace at 325. Every 25% increase, it goes up $1 on all equipment. And then versus vice versa, if it goes down, it should come out $1. I mean, if we're at $3, we should lose $1 on equipment. And then it kind of keeps it at the same pace. The way it's set up with the state, plus 15% right now, it's like every penny, we have to sit there with our payrolls and really work it to get our money what it's actually worth. You know, and that's just,
So you don't want state plus 15, you want state plus...
Well, what he's saying is the state does their fuel allowance differently.
by every cent increase on fuel, we get a percentage. So then you gotta sit there and play with your numbers every single week. So every 25-cent increase in fuel, we get $1. And the way it was set up with the state, I had Michelle, we did some numbers and all that, and it was like, for every 25% increase now, we got 50 cents. And that's, you know, but it had to be 25 cents. I just used the 25 cents because that's the way it was before. And we only got 50-cent increase through the state, and it's not,
And you guys are using a lot more than 2 gallons of gas an hour in those vehicles.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right now averaging about 4 to 5 gallons an hour if you're out pushing heavy and sanding. I mean, if you're just out scraping, slushing and stuff's not bad, but, you know, roughly 4 gallons an hour. So, you know, when it gets to $4 a
Is that
gallon.
one truck? That's what one truck averages? Jesus.
I've been averaging, I mean, with this increase right now, especially I gotta almost work 1 extra hour just to pay for my extra increase in fuel, just to plow for the town. So I lose an extra hour just to buy the extra in fuel.
I look at
Because
it,
I haven't really done that state fuel thing. I've just been keeping it the same because it's so, I mean, it's so complicated because you have to, every 2 cents it goes up, you get so much percentage on fuel. So this way, it's legit. It's, you know, it's on paper, so every 25% increase, you get $1 per hour on any equipment that's out there for the town.
they do the same thing in Shapley, except I spoke to the road commissioner over there, and I believe they had given a raise to their guys 2 years ago, and they upped their rate because they got a raise for it. So, but they do the same thing. They've got a set rate on, you know, when it hits a certain amount, and then they do another 25, every 25 cents extra $1. So they do the same thing. Except they've already given their raise to compensate. Now they have to go to like $5 a gallon, you know, before they start getting any money. So it's no different. It's pretty much the same way we used to do it. I can't remember what the number was then.
Where you
Well,
getting this extra money?
It comes out of, it basically comes out of our accounts.
Okay.
It comes out of our, it does not,
Fuel goes to 4 1/4, you're gonna really be hurting.
yes. Yes, but it still comes out of our accounts. It's just, I mean, in the summertime, I mean, in the wintertime, it's gonna get our budget closer to going to a town meeting. In the summertime, we're always watching our budgets and we're not gonna go over. It's just less work the town gets.
I did the figures, and say that the price of fuel goes to $4 a gallon, okay, and I'm using, 4 to 5 gallons an hour, okay? Say it's $20, say it goes, say I'm using $5 gallons an hour. It's $20 an hour I'm using in fuel. I make $22 an hour to drive the truck, and pretty much my wage pays for my fuel, and after that, and that's fine if I'm driving the truck, because I'm able to do that, but if I got somebody else driving my truck, which he's being paid from the town, if you dock off, say, $20 an hour out of that truck, my truck's only making 30-some dollars an hour. Then you're talking wear, tear, and everything else. You start doing the math, and, the fuel can really eat you alive.
A couple of years ago, they allowed you to use number two.
No, we can't do that.
No, they did.
Yeah.
They did.
In emergencies,
In
maybe.
emergency, there was a certain period of time, a month or two, they allowed number two to be used.
Yeah, well, we probably had that big ice storm in '98,
Yeah.
when no one can get anything.
Yeah,
Get fuel wherever you can.
The problem is with doing that, DOT fringes on that. I mean,
Well, I
you're
know
talking a $5,000 to a $10,000 fine, and, the biggest problem with using that stuff is, boy, it's not very good on filters,
I know all about that.
Yeah.
You have to change your filter more often.
Yeah, I know, boy, I've had a hard time this year keeping a filter in a truck for some reason, so, but it's been cold.
Does anybody have any other questions for Scott, or are we ready to move on to Dave?
David.
You guys all agree? Yeah?
Sounds reasonable.
All right, Dave.
Okay, my budget overall hasn't changed a whole lot. What I've done is I set mine up a little different. I break up my road grading, because I've got some dirt roads that I grade for the town. I give a rough idea of what it's gonna cost to grade these roads, 3 gradings and this and that. By doing this, it kinda gives me every year how much I'm actually spending on it, gives me a better idea. My mowing this year was within a couple $100 of what I figured. I merged the cutting of the brush on the side of the road. I had 2 accounts set up, one for large tree removal for somebody to come in and take them down. I merged those accounts because we actually spent more than I figured on the brush removal. And of course we did do some tree cutting also. But on the what we call highways and bridges, my general maintenance is pretty much highways and bridges, but that's what we used to call it for years. I gave a list of projects that I'd like to attack. I prioritize them on what I go for, like Scott, you go to the worst one and you see how much money you got left and continue on. Now, as you read on these, I put down money from paving and reconstruction if approved. Some of these projects pretty much are determined whether or not there's paving money available. I really can't go into a project like, say, I didn't put on here the Hopper Road. There's a large bump on the Hopper Road that I'd like to take care of. That's a project that I really couldn't really tackle unless I had some money for paving it, because I don't think anybody wants to be driving over that for a year on dirt. But so I gave a list of some of these projects. My number hasn't changed. I stayed at the 476. Scott and I agreed that the Public Works, that number's been working good for us. This year we purchased, we actually had some money left over last year we had some money left over in the budget. We were able to buy some cutting edges to get ourselves ahead before a bad winter. So that's worked out pretty good for us. Yeah, and we put a gate up and we paved the entrance. There is some stuff down there. We haven't decided what we're doing with the shed or anything. So with this money here, this is for fixing the building, this and that. The garage itself, last year we had to do some door work. That money came in handy. So I believe that number there will work. The plowing and sanding, I think we went over that already. It's a number there that, we've plugged in, hope it works. So, stockpile, we've been lucky. We've been able to buy, this year we bought roughly 488 ton of salt. we bought ahead. That way they're, you know, we had the money to do it, we bought it ahead. It got us a long ways this year.
Was it cheaper?
Unfortunately, no. But we, you know, that, you'd have to be Notre Dame to figure out what they're gonna do with the salt prices, because one year, we never expected them to go down.
Right, it was like $63 last year, and then, you know, it's like, I was expecting that it's gonna go up, you know, but it actually dropped down to 57 roughly.
And for what I just got,
You're only talking $200-300, $400 in savings, but you
And it
never
could've-
expect, but it did. You know, only reason it did, because they had mountains of it, and we didn't use none of it last year.
I've already got, I've heard through a Tweety bird from the salt company there that salt's gonna go back up, so, you know, what we're doing now is, we'll do the same if we have any money left.
Right.
So that we, you know, we can get ahead of the game again, cause you know, if we hadn't had that 488 ton in there at the beginning of this year, we've been hurting pretty bad this year on a stockpile budget, so, you know, by pre-planning, I think we really covered ourselves. Of course, so I put some numbers there that, you know, what I think we could do if we didn't have the extra money left, okay? Just to give an idea. Of course, those numbers could change. We don't know whether or not. I made up an average of $60 a ton, because one year it was 60-something, 50-something. I averaged out 60. And of course, you never know, the sand price can go up. We've been pretty lucky in the last couple of years as the sand prices have gone down. Well, up then back down.
Are you
So,
happy with the sand this year?
yeah,
It's been decent,
you know,
very competitive prices.
yep. So, you know, so I ran that number being the same as what we spent last year. And in the back here, what I done is I put two projects down there that really, they were already pretty much, from former road commissioner, prepped them, and they've been sitting waiting for hot top. So, I put down paving and reconstruction, because last year I had the $11,000 some left over, and I really wanted to use it somewhere else, and I couldn't. And it would have been one more step closer to, you know, achieving some of my goals, but, so by putting down the paving and reconstruction, you're pretty much putting it in our hands that, you're giving us faith that we're gonna put it where we feel that it has to be. I put down $95,000. I had some quotes on doing some paving on Young's Ridge, from the intersection of 109 to, New Bridge Road, and either or up on Hams Hill. We've had some major washouts there. I started the project up there. The right-hand side washed out bad. We've solved that part of it, but I didn't continue on to the project until whether or not I knew there was gonna be some paving money, because the whole left-hand side as you go down, they're having issues with water in their yards, and there's no place to put a ditch line. So what I'm talking about doing is cutting that bank back, because there's a rock wall that runs down the whole thing. And what happens, the water runs down at such high velocity that it takes out everything on the way down through. We've already put some riprap and stuff there to, you know, slow it down, but further down that road, I'm looking at putting some curbing in there, setting the bank back, put some curb in there to keep the water in the road so it can get to a spot that it can get off the road. So I've halted progress on that project at this point, just so that, you know, see what happens. I don't wanna waste any money trying to put a bandage on it if I can get some of this, you know, money to do the project correctly. So, I put those two projects down right now. Obviously, if I can do these projects, have a little extra paving money left, I'm gonna try to use this as for paving money if possible. You know, most of it will be for paving money if I can. And if I get any money left, you know, maybe I'll be able to go over there, La Hopper Road, Lebanon Road, I call Babylon Brook. We've got, I think there's 7 culverts down there that have sunk dramatically, and they're pretty bad. And that would be a project I'd like to be able to tackle. There's not a lot of money into it, because all the culverts are brand new. Just I'm gonna have to, you know, dig them back out, recompact them, bring them back up to grade, because every year they sink some spots 6 inches, you know, and there's car parts on the side of the road when the cars hit, you know. So I've had a few suggestions of, you know, wanting that done, and I'd like to be able to tackle that. Those are projects I'd really need some paving money to do, because you're opening up, 3-foot areas, 22 to 24 feet wide, and you can soak up some money pretty fast in paving, doing that. So, yeah, I mean, not a lot, but, enough that I don't wanna be pulling that out of my general maintenance budget, because pretty much that general maintenance budget, what we're doing with that money there is, that's mowing, that's your brush cutting, that's, your washouts. So that's pretty much where the, paving and reconstruction is going. It's to the major projects.
Any questions for Dave?
I got a bottom line of 256,006, does that sound right?
I added it up, we're looking at, 161,006, and then the 95, so yes, that sounds,
I mean, I originally, I was gonna do 100,000. I had these quotes, so I went with the quotes that I had. We don't know what's gonna happen with the, price of hot top. We know what diesel fuel's doing right now. And usually when the diesel fuel starts hiking, the paving does too. But last year, I got lucky on, the San Pedro project. My paving actually came under budget. The pavement was lower than they had originally quoted me, so I was able to save some money there. But I don't foresee that this year happening, not with the way fuel's gone up.
so did you say 256,006?
Yeah, you went up $5,000 from last year.
Yes, because last year I had a special project.
Pretty good, huh?
You're including the 90,000 for San Pedro?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and honestly, I didn't even figure it like that there, but, yep.
How could the main part of the budget have gone down so dramatically before we added on the paving budget?
It didn't.
Our budget should be the same. It's been the same for the last.
His budget
So what's
last
the
year.
$5,000?
Difference between the two road commissioners.
No,
Difference
no,
between the
it's
two
difference
road,
between his.
Sam Page project and the reconstruction and paving.
That's about the difference, right?
Got it, okay, between the two, got it.
Right now, we know the economy's not good and all that. We're looking around, seeing some of these roads really deteriorating pretty rapidly. And, we're looking at it right now as, it sounds like a lot of money right now, but in the long haul, this is cheap compared to what it could be if we
A
let
lot
these.
more if you don't take care of them,
Exactly.
like with anything,
So, I mean, there's a spot up by Scott's up in Buzzell Road. Beyond that, I mean, the road is terrible. But that's a road where, you're gonna have to spend a lot of money because it's quite an area. I mean, there's spots in the road that's heaved up, 5-6 inches, coal patching them. And the road's got spots, settle spots, no place for the water to go, even if you ditch it.
You have no place for the snow to put either.
Yeah.
Because there's
so-
trees.
And I got a lot of trees to cut, I'm trying to, I figured before I get crazy and start asking for a lot of money, I figured this was one step towards the right direction, so.
And we do have to remember, roughly my summer maintenance, and that, what I'm asking is what? 184,000, I believe Shapley is close to 300?
Oh, yeah,
300 just for them two,
yeah,
just per one road commissioner.
yeah, my old man, being the road commissioner on
Now,
the.
why is that?
Oh,
Why
thank
are they
you.
so high? What's,
Their budgets are higher, in part because they get so much more money from the state for their schools, they can spend more money on their town government. That's kind of how I've interpreted it.
They do quite a bit of stuff differently, like today I was explaining that any money left over every year, they put in accounts with CDs, and it grows money. They do it a little differently than we do it, and of course, like she says, they get a little bit more tax money than we do too, so. But the Europe money, I don't believe they get the Europe money we get, I don't believe,
They're
but.
gonna get that money this year from the school budget.
So this year, this particular year, there's been no funding for paving. Last year, I seem to recall there were a couple of projects,
Just one
but
special.
nothing in any kind of scope.
'09 was the first year that paving was cut entirely for the fiscal year '09-10. Last year, for fiscal year 10-11, this current fiscal year, the townspeople granted David the project on San Pedro that he did this past fall. as a paving project. Other than that, there has been no paving money appropriated for any place in the town. And not only is it a cost to the town, as a town, in the future if we don't get them repaired, but for the individuals that are driving down those roads, the car maintenance cost is higher every year we allow those to deteriorate as well.
And I found this year, just on San Page Road, it was a bear the year before trying to keep that road bare, because I mean, your plow didn't touch part of it. And this year, it's been much easier to keep that road maintained. So you're talking about less, time going back, slushing, salting. It's helped out quite a bit.
Safety.
So the fuel allowance, I need a little clarification on that. Are we going state rate,
Well, this is state rate the way it is,
or are we going back to an hourly rate for our equipment, like we used to, plus a fuel allowance?
we do have a fuel allowance right now with the state rate,
Yes.
and I do not agree with it. Like I said, if you break it down to what I got down, we would be getting 50 cents. For every 25%, a 25-cent increase, we would get 50 cents or more an hour on the state rate, the way it's set up. But the way the state is, for every cent the fuel goes up, we can work our numbers and get that little bit every week. It's just too much.
Meaning 2 cents per hour for every penny
Right, and see, this way is kind of going back to the old way of, just break for every 25% increase, 25-cent increase, we'll get $1 an hour more for our equipment or trucks. And I believe it should go the other way too. If it's under $3.25, if the fuel is $3, we'll knock $1 off.
Yeah, we go back to, wherever it was before the 325.
Is that going to be phrased that way on the warrant?
It
Because
could-
this
well, I
does just sort of refer to the
It would,
increase,
this is why we're at the preliminary,
right?
Yeah,
I mean, it does seem reasonable.
To clarify something on the, I don't know if you know this now, but those summertime rates, we run state rate. The wintertime, we don't run state rate. So,
because they don't have state rate
they don't have,
for the
for
winter.
the snow plowing, so for the last so many years, they've done it this way anyways, so we shouldn't even be going on state rate for the fuel lots anyways for the winter time, because we don't use that.
I think also, we have not yet met with the road commissioners. We've talked about getting together with them when it started to be budget time about that warrant article that set the rates at state rates plus 15. It has caused, I think I can say, a fair amount of headache this year trying to use those rates. I think that the intent behind going with them last year was somewhat noble. I think that it was an exercise, though, that may have proven ineffective. So if, this is a preliminary look at their proposed budgets. The warrant article pertaining to the rates is a separate discussion. We haven't had a chance, this board has not had a chance yet to meet with the road commissioners, and the treasurer together, who also has had to deal with the headache of trying to figure out state rates for equipment that doesn't exist as far as the state is concerned. We need to get that hammered out and come to the people on the warrant article with a valid proposal, because state rates plus 15%, it's not valid. It doesn't work for our town. It would work if we had a public works department and if we were.
You own the equipment.
Right, it makes more sense, but where we have subcontractors and road commissioners and.
So in other words, some of the stuff that the state lists isn't even applicable because
No.
And
The
more
opposite.
importantly.
Some of the equipment these guys have
It's
is
not on the
not
list.
listed, so
It's
we
not
don't have
even
a
on the
price for it.
list.
And we had the state come down, DEP came down, they met with the road commissioners, they did an
DOT.
inventory. Thank you, we're not DEP, not DEP, sorry. We
Came
had,
down to,
Yeah, they come in too, but.
yeah, the DOT, thank you, came down, we had them meet with them, they did an inventory, and they were like, listen, we can't find some of these pieces of equipment. We don't use these at a state level. And it also wasn't just because the state rate very often is based on the state renting a piece of equipment for a year and dividing that by the number of work days in the year. And then by the number of hours in a workday. So it's not a very legitimate cost.
it's tough then because you're not really comparing apples to
Exactly.
apples.
I mean,
Yeah, with the problem we're having with it is, there's parts of that state rate that do work, and then there's parts that just don't work at all. I mean, for instance, for me to send a tractor out with a sweeper on it, okay? The state pays $15 an hour for that. And, you know, you're talking a combination package of, you know, 20-some $1,000s with the sweeper and all. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. So the operator makes more than a piece of equipment. You know, there's spots on there I do like, you know, they list the, you know, the dump trucks, you know, the yardage and this and that stuff works. But, you know, like Scott skid steer, there's not a rate for that. So there's not a rate for the, you know, if you use a vibratory roll, you gotta,
A 1 ton.
you know, the one ton.
Four-wheel drive one ton.
Yeah.
There's
How
not
are you
a,
gonna iron this out as far as the language or what's, you know?
I think we go back to what we used to do, which is just have those rates written right in the warrant, and you see them, you know, for this piece of equipment, we're gonna charge this rate. And, you know, work together with the road commissioners, they have, you know,
Is there somewhere
I-
it's standard, I mean, if the state doesn't have it for certain equipments, is there somewhere else?
You
or-
could
that's,
call
that comes,
Something
that
you
comes,
have to-
that comes to the board, and we, like
We
Larissa,
called all over the place. We call rental companies and some of the equipment that they have, that they put together on their own. I mean, they bought a skid steer and then they bought attachments and everything else. You can't find anybody that has that kind of equipment, so
So you
it's,
have to find these comparisons for all the equipment we have and then.
yeah. And we had it before, right? Before they went to the state rate.
my recollection is prior, and Lorraine would know certainly.
Well, we met with the road commissioners, and they know how much a vehicle costs them to operate. So we could come up, if there's nothing to go with, we could come up and figure out what it costs them to operate and how much we're allowing them, you know, extra for it.
It would-
And that's the way we worked out our rates.
right.
I mean, a lot of this stuff you can go right on, you know, you can still use, like, my theory is you can still look at some of the state rate and kind of base it on it.
Yeah.
There's some of the stuff, you know, like I said, the dump trucks, you go on there and you figure out the state rate on a 14-yard dump, and then add the operator in, and it comes out pretty close to what, you know, the average guy in the area is getting for a truck. There's other stuff that doesn't though. So I think if we can look at the state rate, you know, the operator rates, the truck driver rates, supervisor rates, stuff like that, yeah, you know, those are legit. But I think we gotta sit down, we'll use this as a reference, and then make corrections of where we think, you know, this don't look good, you know, we'll present it to you guys and give you a number where we think the numbers really ought to be.
Something to fit the equipment you guys are using.
Yes.
Exactly. I mean, like you said, the summertime rates are pretty close as far as the excavators and backhoe bucket loaders and all that stuff. That's pretty legit. But when you get into plow trucks and equipment that the state doesn't even have rates for, and you're trying to throw it into a category, it doesn't fit, and that's why, the people should leave it up to the Board of Selectmen and the road commissioners, come up with some reasonable rates, and this is basically what District 1 has for equipment. This is what District 2 has for equipment,
Most of the time it stays the
And let the
same.
town vote on it.
and it's based on, we can still say it's basically based on state rate plus 15. Any additional equipment is already been discussed, and any equipment that's not available from the state, something like that.
It's a problem that needs to be addressed this year, and it was not a good exercise. It did
And right,
not.
and like I totally disagree with the fuel rate, the way it's set up right now, because it's, I mean, I'm not gonna, Michelle will be just pulling her hair out, over 1 cent, but, I wouldn't be doing that. I haven't done that this year, but the fuel has been jumping, but I haven't claimed any difference from the state rate, because it's so wishy-washy the way they got it set up, it's every cent the fuel goes up, I can get a little more money, but all it does is hurt my budget at the end anyway. But, when it does come up 25 cents difference, now it starts to hurt my wallet.
We don't stockpile any fuel, do we? No. When you run out of fuel, you have to go over to Boonies and get some more fuel.
And if Bunis is shut down with electricity, we have to go to wherever to get
The
fuel.
Citgo station in Sanford, the next closest one with diesel?
Mapes down in,
Yeah.
Or over in New Hampshire at
Oh,
Route
yeah,
16.
Citgo, right, yep.
Would it be something to consider to have your own storage?
Then DEP would be coming down.
I mean, it would be nice, if we worked a deal with, say, Muses, they do usually have a truck there of off-road diesel and on-road diesel.
But you can get burned the same way. It's just like buying your home heating oil. You know, you buy it, and then it drops down, and then you're stuck with whatever you got, so.
Yeah, but when you buy in volume and you get a large shipment, your price can be negotiated down.
Yeah, but, I mean, you're talking, you'd have to buy a large volume, because the guys that I talk to that are having their fuel, their on-road fuel delivered to they're not saving a couple cents a gallon. It's more convenience than anything. So, I don't know if the town of Acton really wants to get into doing
Right.
that.
I
You're better off just, you know, we talked over about this. I had another idea. My idea was, you know, if the fuel stays where it is, just give, you know, a raise to the trucks for now, and then start over to a different rate, meaning, okay, I believe this is what, I think I was speaking on before, Shapley did that 2 years ago. The fuel went up, they gave an increase, I believe, a couple, $3, $4 an hour, whatever, and then what they did is, instead of going to 3 something, they went to $4.55 an hour, or something like that, so you have to get to that point to get more money. So either way, like right now, I think we figured out it'd be $3 an hour if we went at 325 and hit 4. If it hit 4, we'd be getting $3 an hour.
Right, but I mean, I think it's more fair with the 25% increases, because we get it or we lose it. You know, if it goes under $3, the town gets it back. If it goes up 25 cents, we get it. I mean, it still comes out of our budgets. It's still putting back into our budgets. It's not like our general big numbers go up. You know, it's still within our budgets, but it's more, I feel it's more realistic for the townspayers to stay with the 25% increases, you know, because they did it that way for years. It seemed to work.
There is a concept. I was just thinking whether this could be done. There is a large storage facility located in the town of Acton for diesel fuel. You may have a little bit of a ego problem dealing with the person who owns the property, but there's a pump and there's a tank. And you could probably dump a few thousand gallons of diesel fuel, and the town would own that fuel as long as you had a lock on the tank, a lock on the pump.
You're gonna have.
Well, that'd be Muses, correct?
No, he's thinking down on 109, across from the fairgrounds.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
I don't think you wanna get into that, for the simple reason is, you know, the trucks that we use aren't obviously owned by the town of Acton and maybe used for other stuff. So,
Right.
I mean, I don't think Scott and I need people following us around, make sure our trucks stayed in our dooryard, you know, because we had town fuel in our trucks. That would be the only problem, so.
I mean, if the town want to purchase that much money, I mean, if they think they can save us some money, then give us a credit card, so every time we go swipe it, we can buy fuel all year round at the town price. That'd be nice. I can see your concept there.
You're still
You know,
coming
so-
into.
But it's no question where we spend our fuel, we bought it. I could see that, you know what I mean?
But what he's saying here makes more sense. I mean, the hours we put in, we get compensated for. You can keep track of whether, you know, where it's going. Any other way would, you know, I mean, yeah, we got the honesty system, but, you know, there's some people that don't believe in that. So,
Or it would just constantly be being questioned.
exactly, it would be more of being hounded than anything, so.
With the aggravation.
No, it's not.
Where does Shapley, they go to Boonies too? Is that
Yeah,
right?
Shapley,
That's why basically, yeah,
How about Newfield, what do they do? Same thing? They have a place they,
the guys in Newfield that cause I know the guys that plow over there, they
They'll
got
be
their own
hitting
storage
Limerick.
tanks.
Well,
you
they-
know.
well, I mean, how many gallons?
They're pretty good sized tanks, 500-600 gallon tanks. You know,
Right,
they
so,
gotta
but
get
they have,
fuel.
they have a truck come in and just
yeah, fill it.
pour it in or whatever. I mean, I've thought about,
Right in their own place,
right, so it's still their own fuel, they're still buying it, whether they save a few cents, you
Well, see
know.
what Chaplin, I think Acton used to do when they were given the fuel allowance, they go by Booney's numbers.
Right.
You know, that's pretty much where we go, so, you know, I guess if the depot is 10 cents cheaper and we can go down there and get it and still get it, but you know,
Yeah,
you're
but you're
still
gonna spend
traveling.
it- you're gonna spend the
to get
10
there,
cents
so
to go down, I mean, you're
either
gonna
way,
spend
you
the
use
other-
Booney's as your reference and it works.
You have a good relationship with Boonies and everything.
Oh, yeah, for 10 years now.
So I've
More than
heard
that,
two
I'm-
different proposals here, one being, and I'm seeing this fairly generic, 325 plus or
Well,
minus
now, I'm
25.
kind of, I mean, that's
But I've
not a
also
solid.
heard, I've also heard, you know, something with a little more detail, like has been more reflective of what we've done in the past with the different items on the warrant.
Well, this would be.
How do those reconcile?
Because, okay, so let's say that I'm just gonna toss out numbers, they're not real, okay? But let's say that we break down the plow truck numbers and we say that a plow truck, a full-size double blade thing truck, gets
gallons an hour.
$55 per hour to be used.
Yeah.
Okay, is that close-ish?
Pretty close.
Awesome, okay, so it's $55 per hour to be used. That already includes a fuel allowance within that cost. So what we're saying is, if fuel goes over the 325, if suddenly diesel fuel hits
Sure.
350, now they're gonna get $56 an hour for that truck.
Understood.
And so it's all incorporated just in those rates.
But you were also talking about other things than plow trucks. I mean, I'm assuming that not everything is going to be burning 4 gallons of fuel per hour.
Yeah,
You know,
but-
you crank up a chainsaw and, you know, it's
Yeah,
going to
well,
be a little
that,
different.
I mean,
That's a
if,
summary.
I wouldn't, I mean, if, on a chainsaw, I wouldn't,
Well, I guess what I'm asking is this sort of an average of what you can expect with all of your equipment? Or does this only apply to trucks? Or is this only
No,
a framework to put in the more detailed mechanism that we were talking about?
I'd be going for any pickup, equipment, or plow truck on this, because who's to say that gasoline isn't gonna, I mean, gasoline pretty much floats, it's same as diesel. So I'm not saying a chainsaw or a plate whacker, I don't ask for gas or fuel for any of them. You know, I just get my $5,
But the big
$4
stuff
and
does
$4.
consume more or less along the similar rates, so
Yeah,
that,
well, I don't,
But at the same time, we gotta,
I don't ask for any of that.
know-
You know, I mean, it's $4 an hour I get for it. We used to get 5 back in the day. With the state rate, it's $4 an hour for a chainsaw. It's a pickup, 1 tons, plow trucks, diesel, excavators, backhoe bucket loaders, dozers, loaders,
right,
that's,
and they're gonna average out to 4 gallons per hour, which would reflect your $1 per hour operating cost.
in a general,
for the
yes.
25
I mean,
cent
I
increase.
most definitely could burn 4 to 5 gallons an hour on my 1 ton if I'm out plowing heavy in a snowstorm, or if I'm hauling cold patch in the summertime from one end of the town to the other, stopping and not going, but the truck is still running. I'm gonna average that consumption of fuel or gas.
now, I don't know, seeing we've already spoke about correcting some of the rates and this and that, maybe when we do that, we can compensate for what the fuel is now and make that rate what it is, so for the equipment, okay? Right now, I'd be more concerned about what we're doing now with the plow trucks and then turn around and when Scott and we all meet with making up our rates for the equipment, maybe adjust for them then, so we don't have to worry about doing a fuel adjustment at this point in time. We can do that now because we've got the luxury of doing that. So, right now, I think pretty much the wintertime stuff would be more of a concern than anything.
Does the equipment have a little gauge similar to, say, a tractor where you have actually the operating hours on it? Is that where these times come from? So for instance, you would, on a piece of equipment, you would log, the reading at the beginning of a project or a day or whatever increment you use, and then
Well, I mean,
maybe catch it at the end, or,
it doesn't
how do
matter.
you
I mean-
keep track of?
Well, if I'm, just for instance,
10 pieces of
if I'm just
equipment.
digging leaves and sand out of a ditch, the excavator doesn't burn, it burns its normal amount of fuel. But if I'm digging ledge and I'm working that thing as hard as I can, I'm gonna burn more fuel. Just like if I'm driving around with the 1 ton and I'm driving culverts, if I'm picking up 20-foot culverts and I'm strapping it on the back of the truck, it's not gonna burn a lot of fuel. But if I have a load of crushed gravel in it, going from one end of the town to the other, I'm gonna burn more fuel. Just like if you're pushing heavy snow versus light snow, there's gonna be a different consumption of fuel.
Yeah, but Paul's saying, do you average that out? Whether
Yes.
it's light or heavy, you take it all and add
That's what, yeah, that's.
But it is sort of subjective, it's
Right.
not just,
It's
okay,
it's
the
an
same
average.
rate per hour, no matter what conditions they're using
Right.
it in, so it averages out in the end.
Right. Exactly.
thank you.
Thank you.
We beat this horse pretty dead, haven't we?
It is crying on the floor. Do we have any other questions for the road commissioners with their preliminary kind of budget proposals?
I do not.
And if anyone wants to take down my cell phone number for any quick questions, in the long run, 432
It's on TV.
7943.
I'll give it to you
For those who,
And for any quick questions or any explanations, I am always here for the town.
So you're gonna get together, you will get together, the selectmen and the road committee, and put together the final, and we'll see it again, or?
As far as the budget goes?
The rates?
Yeah,
The rates.
The rates will be a separate warrant
We
article, it
consider
won't be
these-
part of the budget. But,
If the road commissioners don't get a sense, I think that the road commissioners have given us their final budgets. Am I correct?
Yep.
We feel that these are the final budgets we're putting forward. It's a preliminary, it's a preview for you guys, to ask the
because we will
questions.
see it in the form of a warrant article.
Right, but this is what's going to the people. We're not changing these numbers. So you guys now have the numbers that in your own workshops and meetings, you can hash around. Because they're not changing as far as we're concerned. And we'll get you the rates when we can get together, and probably not until the second week of March.
And actually, that does bring up another question, and it's actually a simple question, amazingly enough. The paving budgets, I'm gathering that that's going to be sort of a wild card. You know, we agree that, you know, gee, we really don't want to shortchange our maintenance for too long, but we don't know the will of the people.
Right.
Is the paving angle going to be a separate warrant article or part of the overall budget? In other words, is it all going to sink or swim together, or is it going to be?
It's all tossed in together under District 1 and District 2, but if the people get up at town meeting and they say, you know, we
Okay,
would like to
amendable.
we'd like to amend this, we'd like to reduce it by 30,000, we'd like that to come out of this line, well, then we know as a town that that's what we need to do. The road commissioners can't at that point say, well, we're gonna get all that paving done in the fall, and then when we're out of money, we'll go back to the people and ask for more for plowing. I mean, clearly, that's not an option. So if the townspeople say, yeah, we're not up for all that paving, then it's their duty to amend it on the floor, and it's our duty to execute the will of the people by amending it in the budget.
But I think the selectmen need to decide if they're going to put the fuel article in.
I think the fuel article has usually been a separate article, correct? Isn't
Well,
it?
it goes with the
It was-
wages.
yeah,
On
it's
the
always
same
been with the
article that
wages.
Yeah,
says- Same article that says, state rate plus,
Right.
Okay.
and
What I'm-
then there'll be the next clause if you want to
Okay.
put that in.
We do have a fuel allowance now.
Right.
It's totally, I don't agree with
No,
it.
that's
Because it's
not-
state
No,
rate plus
yeah, but
15.
we don't, because remember, we only run state rate during the summertime rates. So right now, there should be somewhere, an article, at least, I know a couple of
Well,
years
it's
ago, I
just-
remember them doing it, voting on it, that there should be an article already stating for that fuel allotment.
Well,
But
I
we
mean, I
don't-
believe
we
it's
don't
just a
use-
misprint then.
I don't think it's there
But that would be
this
an
past month.
annual basis, though. It
Yeah,
wouldn't,
we'd have to come back. every
Yeah,
year.
but we don't use state rate in the wintertime, so it wouldn't be legit anyways. We don't have to use that.
So what we can do, like she said, the budget, as far as we're concerned, is going forward. But what we can do is we can come back and meet as a group again after we come up with the individual hourly prices for that separate warrant article, so that you guys can go over those, ask questions about those before we
That-
put
that
that
was my-
warrant
that-
article
that was
forward.
my basic
Yeah,
idea.
and I think it's a good idea.
Yep.
And then we could show you what we've been through this year, trying to get some of these things straightened out, how the state rate doesn't work for us, and what we
I
suggest.
think it's a good idea
Yeah.
what you're doing.
And we'll look
Not the
back at
final
what's been
number,
done.
but just, you know,
Yeah,
like
so you guys
Lorraine's
can look
talking
at,
about.
yeah, so a dump truck with a wing on it is gonna be this amount, and a backhoe's gonna be this amount and everything, so we can put that forward, and then you'll see it before. Because you guys should make a suggestion on that too, whether you agree with it or disagree with it or whatever, so we can come back to that.
Where do you use the word wing? We don't, have the
That's-
correct terminology.
that's
Nice
that
job.
thingy that sticks
The
out the
thing-
side you were
I know, I
talking
was
about
really
before.
impressed. That thingy.
You never wrote as a wingman, you have to be the one
I
that.
thought that was the guy at the bar.
My wingman right here.
I do have one thing that I wanna say, and you guys being the first ones to come between the joint groups. This year, May 30th will be a spending deadline. There will be no spending on any department or any committee after May 30th. We still pay salaries, but no buying anything in June. This year, bills were spent all the way till the end of June, didn't come in until August and September, so then we couldn't do the budget.
So what's that saying? I mean, what's the
So
date?
if you know that you want to buy something, you need to get that invoice in May 3rd, by May 30th.
So if I get major washouts and stuff like that after that,
In theory, you would have enough material stockpiled to deal
Yeah,
with those
but
things.
that's the problem. The problem with that is, like
I
this year.
can't buy no pavement, you know, I mean,
You have to
to fix.
plan, you have to plan to get it in May, you can't buy it in June.
Like I think what they say is like last year when we bought the culverts and the gravel and this and that.
Well, that was fine if it was done, you know.
Yeah, I know.
But there was a lot, and I'm not picking on you guys, because every department's gonna hear this. There was a lot of things that were spent like June 28th,
Yes.
okay? So those bills didn't come in until September, so we can't close the books for the year.
So was that on the town floor last year?
This isn't a town floor, this is a selectman telling each
I don't wanna
department.
harass you, but it's like,
Harass us, okay.
And if you don't wanna listen to us, we'll tell Michelle that you disagree with us, and she'll take care of it.
The only
We're just
problem,
asking you to keep in mind that
I will.
spend any big bills, spend them in May, you know, like you did your stockpiling and stuff. Let's do it in May. The bills will be in June. We can close the books at the end of June like we're supposed to. The auditors can come in. Maybe we can get the auditors to be done so we can get the tax bills out earlier. Where we're doing a reevaluation, we'd like to put all these things together and get the information out to the people as soon as possible, and not just get to, what do we have, 45 days to get it to before October that we had to have the,
Well, we had, the tax bills are due October 15th.
right, but
and-
we had, what, 30 days before?
Yeah, we didn't get them out till almost September 15th.
Yeah,
because
so
were
we
tied
would
up.
like to get them out where everything's gonna change so much, we would like to get them out a lot earlier this year. So just think ahead about what you're gonna buy, what's left in your budget that you need to purchase, and buy it in May.
it does make it tough for road
well,
commissioners
it
that
does,
last month.
because what happens is.
You don't
is
really
I've got
know what's gonna
right now
happen.
$35,000 left in my general maintenance right now. I leave that because we don't know what's gonna happen in springtime.
Right.
But the problem we have is, we post the roads to a certain period of time, we can't work, so we literally got May, June to spend that money. And what we do is, like we did last year, we left this money, of course, when the roads open up, we go to work, do what we can between that period of time, and sometimes we'll leave a little extra money just in case of a major washout. So what happens is, at the end of June, what I did this year is, I bought, the gravel, the rock, and all that stuff, prepping for the next year, because I couldn't spend all that money quick enough. I may have left a little extra because, like I said, we weren't sure.
All right, let me
But
try
what
wording it a little bit differently.
Okay,
If you have an emergency in June, we're not gonna say no.
Okay, well, yeah, but
But anything you know you're gonna spend in, like June 12th, I'm sure you can buy it in May 28th.
I mean,
Well,
I would
That's
totally,
all we're asking.
But-
Plan ahead. If an emergency comes up and you're gonna spend it, then we'll know it's gonna be, we'll know it's spent, and we can get that figure, we can call the company and ask them to bill us quicker. But when a lot of spending goes on at the end of the month, and it takes us 2 to 3 months to get the bills in, and we're still working in September on the previous year, it doesn't work well for everything else that we have to do in the
It does
summer
make
months.
it a lot easier on there, and there's a lot to the
yeah,
audit.
but see, the problem we have though is, where I was getting to is, we've got
Change is
that.
tough, I know.
Huh?
Change is tough, I know.
I know.
I'd love to be
You only got
out.
that small window to work in, so you try to do as much as you can in that small window, so when the end of June comes along, and you notice, okay, I got $5,000 or $6,000 in it, what I tried doing last year was, when I ordered the cutting edges, the salt, I asked them to make sure they faxed the bill immediately. I wanted the bill being done before July 1st, so that it wouldn't get billed onto the next year. If you got the bill in before that, I know for some reason there were some bills that got in a couple, 3 weeks later and this and that, but that's the problem, you've got that small window to work in, so you don't know how much you're gonna have.
You
try
gotta
to-
multiply that times every other department in the town doing that.
Yeah, I know.
And that's why we can't.
Can't
we
give us
get
an
the tax bill
exception?
out, no.
There's also there is also the question of if, and this is a very unpopular thing to say, so, glare at me if you wish to, that's fine, but if you have $8,000 left in that general maintenance account, it's okay to leave it there. Like, and if we need to, if we,
A new concept in government.
if we need to, we've talked about needing to put, roll money forward to work, for instance, on a
That's why I
salt shed
think that's
building.
where it would work. I think
Right. So, I
if
mean-
we could roll that money
And we
over
can
to next
talk
year's
about that
account.
and see what's reasonable to roll ahead. Clearly, we're not gonna roll ahead plowing money, Okay, if we have a light winter, we consider it a gift, we don't roll that forward. If we know ahead of time that you guys are going to have, so, yeah, you've got $30,000 left in your road maintenance account, Scott, you've got $48,000 left in your road maintenance account. Yes, I understand that you've left a lot of money in there to deal with post-winter washouts, post-winter trees down and so forth, and that's good planning. And we want you to be able to get, care for us by having that happen. If we need to rewrite the warrant so that we can carry some of that forward, I think that that's more reasonable to do, and it's better for us accounting-wise, and it lets you guys use that money in June and July when you want to be doing it because the weather's good and you get out there doing it.
That makes a lot more sense. That way there, we don't have to be trying to figure out how we're gonna make this money work in this short period of time. If we can roll it over,
Yeah,
then-
we're not shutting you off.
Because
We
what-
we just need to have, all these big expenditures have to be in by June 30th so we can close the books.
Because I was able to take, I forget how much I had left over off the top of my head, but I was able to take the remainder money that I had left over and buy enough material to do 3 or 4 projects in the next year.
Yeah.
Which, if I hadn't done that, I would have lost all that money and I wouldn't have got myself ahead on the next year like I had.
Yeah, and we don't want that. We're looking more for the idea of getting the books closed sooner, especially this year, because it's gonna be pretty confusing with all the changes with the reevaluation. So and it's been a request of our new treasurer, who's doing an amazing job, so we'd like to keep her happy. And it just makes sense, running a business, especially, I worked for the government before, there's always been this mindset that we gotta spend it because if we don't, they won't give us the same amount next year. But if you guys plan it out and put it into, still use it for that summer, then everybody's gonna be happy with that. But when everybody runs to the door at the end of June and spends everything they got because they're afraid that their budget next year is not gonna be the same because they had money left over, believe me, in this economy, people are gonna be happy if you save them some money, and they're gonna be more than happy to let you put it towards what your projects are for the next year.
And it isn't just you guys.
See that?
We have the same
It's every
thing.
department. It's every department.
Yeah, we're not gonna be stocking up our supply closet at the end of the year. It's the same concept. Just because it's there, we can roll it
Well,
forward.
I think what's happened with us is seeing some of our budget had been cut, that you want to utilize every dollar you've got.
Yeah, exactly.
And you really hate to see it disappear at the end of the year, so, when I was able to go out and spend, $6,000 or $7,000 that I was on materials, that got me way ahead of the ball game when it came to the next year. And, I wouldn't have been able to done some of the projects I did if I hadn't done that.
So we can solve this, make you guys feel more comfortable, have the town actually be better served by having the roads be better maintained, by adding on to that carrying forward article, kind of this idea. And I understand that our auditor finds the carrying forward a little bit messier. It's not anywhere near as messy as trying to pay bills in September that were actually generated in May and June.
Good
We need to
idea.
change
I see,
tape.
I hear that.
Okay, hey guys, how many minutes do you have left, Soph? 15? Are we able to wrap up this meeting in 15 minutes so that we don't change tape? All right, Sophia, let us keep running and we won't worry about it. Yes. All right, any other questions for the road commissioners?
All right, so as soon as we get that ready, we'll call another meeting with this group.
Great.
We're planning on...
May 8th, March 8th.
March 8th for our next meeting with you guys.
Now, would that next meeting potentially be piggybacked onto another one we're already having, or would we have a standalone? I
This-
mean, I
the
don't
next- the
necessarily
March
see it
8th
as being a,
The March 8th meeting
Long
would be with another department head or two. It would not be with the road commissioners. We have the next couple of weeks, next week is school vacation week. I'm gonna be gone a couple of days of the week. Ted's gonna be gone a couple of days that week. Poor Bill, he's gonna be, running the ship. And then the following week, I'm actually going to be in Virginia for the entire week. So the two guys, of course, will be here, but I would really like it if I could be part of our joint meeting. So the next day that we're all available is March 8th. If we could plan on meeting is it the school board on March 8th? Oh, it is the school board, Tuesday, it's the first
That's a
Tuesday.
regular one, okay.
What if we were to meet with you guys at 5? Are you up for a double session?
Well, we've moved the school committee
at
meetings
6
up to
at the
6
school
o'clock.
Yeah,
What if
so
we were to meet with you at 4?
let's
Can I
go-
hear 4?
Let's go Thursday.
Thursday. Okay, so Thursday, March 10th, that is our board meeting, but we could meet with them prior?
I got a
Thursday
5 o'clock
again.
meeting on Thursday.
Thursday's kind of
All
not
right,
good
you
for
pick a
me.
day.
Yep,
Wednesday.
Wednesday, great.
We can do that.
So Wednesday, March 9th at 6 PM? And we will have, we have yet to be determined department heads, 1 or 2 of them here to discuss their budgets. Also, that same week, we can talk privately to figure out a day for us to meet during some of our office hours that work for you guys, about the rates and get those set up. And then the following week, so let's call it, you know, the 16th, we could meet with you guys to talk about rates.
What time on the night? March
6
9th?
o'clock, please?
6 o'clock, and will we be notified ahead of time which departments from the town?
Yes, and we'll get you their budgets.
Yes, yeah.
We do know that we want to try and get the people from the office here to meet on a night that they're already here, so that'll have to be a Thursday, yeah. The fire department will have to schedule with them. The transfer station, we're probably going to leave to the end because we're making some changes there on the 1st of March with a new superintendent. We want him to have a chance to look at the budget and make sure that's, or him or her, whoever we decide to hire, make sure when they go, that they are happy with the budget for next year before we present the one that we have. So we've got the other committees that we can fit in with the fire department, maybe for that night.
So by end of March, though, I mean, if, with town meeting being the second Saturday in June, we're gonna wanna have the final warrant ready to go no later than the end of April, absolute latest. So you guys are gonna need to have your meetings where you vote on things. So I think our intent is to have all of our meetings with you, with the budgets being presented, being wrapped up by the end of March. So it might be a couple meetings a week if we have to, through March, but we'll get through them and then be done.
I'd like to have the date ahead of time for the social service agency, so I can notify all of them.
Yeah.
Let's,
Yeah.
you know, we're
You want to do
here,
that one that night?
social services on the 8th?
Because there's quite a few of them, right?
Absolutely, bring them on in.
Why don't we do that?
9th,
Do the
March
night?
9th at
March
6
night?
PM.
Do the social services?
And they
Yeah.
go by pretty quickly. If we have time afterwards, maybe we can squeeze in our budget
Okay.
and get that banged out too.
Now, there are more requests this year than we've ever had before.
And they're all increased too, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
A lot of requests for donations this year.
okay. Well, we'll send out the letters and see what happens.
Did you get copies of all that when you came in too?
I got a whole bunch of copies. I think there was one thing that they said they didn't have. Was it Conservation Committee?
Conservation Committee has not really been meeting. That is, we need to address that issue.
Yeah.
I'm not,
But I got a big list.
And I've got several more since I've talked with you from
Oh, really?
social services that have requested money.
I
Okay,
got
so-
a whole lot of social service people looking for donations,
Yeah.
handouts, welfare.
any,
We'll get you copies of all those requests before that meeting so you can know who you're
I
going to
got
talk
quite a
to.
few. I got quite a.
Yeah, will you want to pass them on to the rest of your friends?
What do you mean? You didn't give only one of each. You didn't give me.
well, come on in and Lorraine will make copies.
It seems an untenable situation.
All right,
We don't have anything digital, so we'll have to get you copies.
yep. Excellent. Anything else from anybody else?
Just wanted to say thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you,
Yep.
guys.
Nicely done, everybody. Great, we'll see you in a couple weeks, and let's hope for not too much snow.
Meeting adjourned.
Meeting adjourned.
Apparently